thrill me.
This show is part of the Thrill Me Podcast Network. Experience more on Facebook and YouTube.
It's Review It Man, reviewing what he can. Movies are his jam, so let's get twisted, man. It's Review It Rob.
Hey yo, welcome to the Review It Rob show. Appreciate you joining in to listen to this show, man. This week, finally got to check out Godzilla Minus One, a special version of Godzilla Minus One. So it's going to be fun to talk about that on this week's episode, as well as any news going on that I found, including, of course, the mandatory horror and DC Comics / films news. I feel like I need to add the comics or films part there so people don't think I'm talking politics on the show, because I'm definitely not doing that. I am talking the DC characters over there and what's going on in that world, as well as anything else happening in the movie realm. So again, appreciate you joining in to listen to this episode. Can't talk already. We're off to a great beat. This episode, so Godzilla Minus One, has been highly talked about as one of the greatest films that came out last year in 2023, and you know, it's just rave reviews after rave reviews of this film being the some calling the greatest Godzilla film of all time. So finally got around to seeing it, man. It took me a little bit to get there, but I got around to seeing it, and in a special way, like I mentioned earlier, they have released a special version of Godzilla Minus One that they're calling Godzilla Minus One minus color. That's right. The film is in black and white currently in theaters, and the film's going to be leaving theaters February 1st, from what I understand. So let's go ahead and jump in here real quick. The film is rated PG-13 for creature violence and action, as you would expect with a Godzilla film. It is a sci-fi action movie running in at 2 hours and 5 minutes and is currently in theaters. Japan is already devastated by the war when a new crisis emerges in the form of a giant monster. Rotten Tomatoes critics and audience scores are matching at 98%, while IMDb lower at an 8.3 out of 10. So, what were my thoughts on this film? So, like I mentioned, this movie has been highly talked about since it came out, saying it's one of the greatest movies in the Godzilla franchise to ever exist. And there's some backing up to go along with that, as far as a certain thing that this film has done that no other Godzilla film has done, but we'll get to that in a moment. First off, my thoughts about the film, spoiler-free, of course. I thought the way this movie was put together, and I haven't seen the color version, so I don't know, but the black and white version of this movie is freaking perfection as far as I'm concerned. Like, that gave me every single awesome vibe that I could have hoped for in seeing this movie. I liked the classic feel of it. I liked like we're in the beginning world of Godzilla, like we haven't watched all the other Godzilla movies before. Like, this is a kind of like a new beginning kind of deal with Godzilla. So I liked the way it looked. I love the black and white features of it. If you can see the black and white version, make sure you check that out. I'm sure they'll release physical media versions or streaming versions of both, hopefully, because I do want to see the color version at some point to compare the two to each other. I know they are essentially the same film, but I just want to compare the two because I feel like maybe the black and white is adding something really special to a movie that's already really special. So, when you're going into these Godzilla movies, of course, the main thing that a lot of people continue to say, kind of the same thing you get with Transformers, is you're wanting to see the creature, the monster. You're wanting to see Godzilla. And the moments with Godzilla in this film, BA, dude. So freaking awesome. Like, every single time Godzilla shows up, I'm like, oh, it is going down, man. And the black and white doesn't hinder any of that, man. It kind of adds to the scary factor, especially the first time we see Zilly. I like to call Godzilla Zilly. The first time we see Zilly, I like the darkness of it and the creature just kind of scarily seeing, and then you get full-blown Godzilla. So freaking cool, dude. And every moment with Godzilla in this movie is fantastic. Now, the part that a lot of people worry about with films like these, again, bringing up Transformers, is the human aspect. Like, a lot of us are not too interested in the human aspect of what's going on in these movies, for the most part. And I've run into that with several movies myself. And I have to say, like, not a problem at all in this movie. The human aspect is very well put together. The story is very well written. And acted. Like the acting is so good in this movie. This movie is in Japanese, so you're gonna have to do subtitles with the movie, which normally I don't do a whole lot of subtitly movies, but had no hindrance for me at all with this one. Like, because again, that's how strong the story was. Like, the story is very captivating and very well put together. Um, and I don't want to go into spoiler territory of that. So, not going to talk too much about the story in here because the story does have some really strong beats to it. Great heart. And it is a sci-fi action movie. So, probably one of the better, story involved sci-fi action movies I've seen in a long time. One of the better action films I've seen in a long time. And one of the better Godzilla films I've seen in a long time with Godzilla Minus One. The action beats and the story are just solid on both ends. Like, I can't complain about a single moment of this movie at all. Like, I was in awe the whole time watching the film. Like, it's so perfectly well put together. It is a monster movie with an amazing heart behind it, and they freaking delivered on everything that they needed to deliver on in this movie. And again, I love the black and white aspect of things with this movie. Like, that's why I want to see the color version, see if that changes anything for me. Because again, I know it sounds weird, but they're essentially the same film. But the idea of black and white in a film just adds this extra presence to it. This presence, this feeling, this atmosphere, this vibe, if you will, to the film that just gives you the classicness, but also gives you like a whole different kind of taking in, because again, it's black and white, so you're making these images in your mind, if you want to, of like what Godzilla does and what Godzilla's about. But overall, absolutely loved this movie. I wish I got around to it sooner. If I did, would have easily been in my top 10 films of 2023. Could easily be in my top 5 films of 2023. And heck, top 3 probably, if not top 2. Like, top 3 for sure. And I can't stop thinking about this movie, which is a good thing on two aspects, because it shows how much I enjoyed the film, and two, how strong the movie is, because I watched another movie in theaters after seeing this one a day later, not the same day. I have done same day movie watches before, and I'm sure I'll do them again as a Regal Unlimited member, which I also will be reviewing. That's going to be a separate episode, though. But I'm not going to keep you waiting. I plan on releasing that episode this week as well. Time framing wise, I don't know, so make sure you got those notifications turned on. If you're not subscribed already, please subscribe. It'd be greatly appreciated. But it's such a strongly put together movie. It's going to stand the test of time. We'll see how the sequels go, if they decide to do a sequel for it or not. Godzilla's a long-running franchise, with another Godzilla movie coming out later this year with Godzilla X Kong, or Kong X Godzilla, whichever way they decide to put that there. But part of me wonders if this movie can count as a 2024 film, even though it is the same movie that released in 2023. The black and white aspect just makes it seem like a different movie, and the work they did on it is different than just they grayscaled everything. Like, they did some work on this, so makes me kind of wonder if it's going to count as a 2024 film. I'm going to have to look throughout the year on that one to see how it all works out, see if it's considered a new film or not. Like, some people consider Zack Snyder's Justice League a new movie, so we'll see what ends up happening there. But I loved this film. It is worth the time. 2 hours 5 minutes blew by. Like, not even a moment of this movie was like, whatever. I wasn't bored at all. I was captivated by the story. And then Godzilla showed up. I'm like, heck, freaking yes, Zilly. We got Zilly in this movie, and it's just, it's awesome. Believe the hype on this movie. Sometimes the movies get overly hyped. Believe the hype in this movie. You love Godzilla, you're gonna love this movie. Don't be scared by the fact that it's in Japanese and it's got subtitles and all that stuff. Again, I'm in that boat. I don't watch a whole lot of films with subtitles, and that's probably something that I need to, get away from, because I might be missing some really awesome movies by, not watching those films. But this movie right here, Godzilla Minus One, and again, I saw the one that was minus color, deserves your time and deserves your watch, man. So I'll eventually, hopefully, see the one in color, and then I'll report back on the Review at Rob show my thoughts on that film and the differences between the two. But It probably won't be much because it's the same movie. But nonetheless, man, like I mentioned earlier, teased earlier, that this movie has done something that no other Godzilla film has done, and this time, for the first time in the Godzilla franchise history, has received its first ever Academy Award nomination with the category Best Visual Effects. Which, after seeing this movie, yes, 100%. I believe the regular Godzilla Minus One, the one that's not minus color, is the one that's nominated. But if they're going to throw in the minus color one, easily deserves that nomination. And my vote would go towards this movie for best visual effects for sure. So we'll see how everything unfolds when the Academy Awards happen. Speaking of those, we did a video on the Thermi Podcast Network. We're going to go talk about that with our thoughts on the Academy Award nominations. All right, so that is the Godzilla Minus One talk. Jumping from there, we're going to jump into some other areas real quick. Going from a monster film, it probably seems a good bet to go ahead and jump into horror real quick. Only really one news of horror kind of stuck out, so we're going to talk about this. It's Jennifer's Body, the movie that became a cult classic for a lot of people who have grown to love the film over time. I was a fan of it right away. I like what they did. I like what Diablo Cody put together with this movie. And she is now giving us some information on a possibility of a Jennifer's Body 2, saying, quote, "Yes, I want to do a sequel. I am not done with Jennifer's Body. I just need to find I need to partner with people who believe in it as much as I do, and that hasn't really happened yet. I need someone to believe in it who has $1 billion." End quote. So if you're listening to this episode, if you're a horror fan, let's, put together a thing to get that money for Diablo Cody to make Jennifer's Body 2, man, because I am interested in this. I would gladly watch a Jennifer's Body 2. I think I haven't watched it in a while, but I think they left it in a point to where you probably could do more story information there, and I wouldn't tell you anyways if I remember because that's spoilers. But I I like that movie. I like that first Jennifer's Body film a good bit. So if they decide to go back in that realm and do a sequel to the film or some kind of continuation or whatever with it, I think that would be a very well job done. Let's see. Going from there, we jump into DC Comics films news. First one being that James Gunn, messing up names here, good lord. James Gunn has confirmed that J.J. Abrams' Superman film is still happening. This film is in the Elseworlds and is still in development. So remember a while back, they announced that J.J. Abrams would be behind a Superman film. And then, of course, things have gone the way they have with DC, where, changes of power have happened at Warner Brothers, and we now have James Gunn and Peter Safran in charge of DC Studios, and there was a question about whether that was still happening or not. It is still happening. It is still in development. So, a J.J. Abrams Superman film in the Elseworlds. Remember, the Elseworlds is the films that take place not connected to the DCU films that will, start soon. We have Creature Commandos, the show, starting this year, and then next year, Superman Legacy kicks off the films. So, Elseworlds is the Batman, and the sequel we're getting to the Batman, Joker, and the sequel we're getting to the Joker this year, things of that nature, and that's where the J.J. Abrams Superman film will fall in over there. Not hard for us that are in the know and pay attention to these things. Maybe a little confusing for the casual watcher of the superhero films, comic book films, but exciting nonetheless. I like J.J. Abrams, like the work he's done, especially with the latest Star Trek trilogy, and loved Super 8. So I would be happy to see him do something in that Superman realm and see how it works out. Let's see. Other than that, James Gunn has also confirmed that Batman is not in Superman Legacy. This is a rumor that started spreading around, I think, over the last month. There's even been like a picture where, I think it was IMDb put up Jake Gyllenhaal as Batman or something like that. And sorry, not Jake Gyllenhaal, Ryan Gosling. Mix those two up. So Ryan Gosling was rumored to have been cast as Batman for the Superman Legacy film. That kind of went its own route, to which James Gunn, has now responded even further, because when that first was brought up, James Gunn just rethreaded it. I guess it's on Threads, with like an eyeball emoji, eyeball rolling emoji, and then somebody asked him, if Batman was in Superman Legacy, or why is Batman not in Superman Legacy, to which James Gunn responded saying, quote, because he's not in the script, end quote. Yeah, um, that's the thing that we run into with these superhero comic book films is, the internet likes to make things up. They just come up with stuff on the fly and, trying to make this happen or try to make that happen, try to get people to believe it, so you'll click on their articles and all that stuff. Um, there's no need for Batman to be in Superman Legacy. There's a ton of characters already in that film that will be explained when the film comes out. That's the weird thing to me, is how people are already so judgy about these things. We haven't seen a single bit of anything, right? All we've seen is a timeline, and that's it, and the corresponding information to go with said timeline. We haven't seen a trailer for any of this stuff. We're not going to see a trailer for Superman Legacy anytime soon. Maybe Comic Con. No, Comic. I don't know if DC still does the DC fandom thing anymore. I haven't heard much about that lately, and Comic Con, I don't know. But it's not coming out till July of 2025. Like, it's just hold on. We'll get information, then we'll finally see the products and see how everything's shaping out, instead of being the backseat driver, if you will, of trying to piece everything together with no information whatsoever. And then last bit here, Zoe Saldana, know her, you love her. She said that she would be up to work with James Gunn in DCU. Which, not too surprising. Those two have a history, of course, with the Guardians of the Galaxy. So would not be surprised to see Zoe come back. I don't know what character she would play. Let me know in the comments who you think you would want Zoe Saldana to play in the universe. But they have worked greatly together before, so would not be shocked at all to see Zoe return. As James has mentioned, the possibility of working with other actors he's worked with before, especially the Guardians, coming over to the DCU. Not so much, not the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're not coming over to DC unless somebody merges those two companies together, which it could work, right? I mean, Warner Brothers doesn't seem to know what they're doing. So again, we haven't seen the DCU, so we don't know what's going on. James, I have the faith in James that he knows what he's doing, but I gotta make sure Warner Brothers keeps their nose out of it. But we'll get there. But eventually, Zoe Saldana shall be there. All right, other news time before we close this thing out. It has been announced that a new film in the Jurassic franchise is currently in development. It does say the Jurassic World franchise, but it is the Jurassic franchise, ladies and gentlemen. This film started with Jurassic Park, okay? But a new film is in development over there at Universal for the Jurassic franchise to continue on. The script will be written by David Koepp, who adapted the 1993 original. The project will have an all-new storyline that is intended to launch a new era for the franchise. The Jurassic mainstay Frank Marshall is coming back to produce, along with the regular producing partner of Patrick Crowley, and of course Steven Spielberg will be executive producing through Amblin Entertainment. So yes, I like the idea that it's going to be a new start. Maybe not even a new start, just a new focus of characters. Nothing against our last characters, and definitely nothing against characters before then with the Jurassic Park franchise. But it's nice to see something new. So it sounds like this is going to be the start of a new trilogy, more than likely. Which I know some of you are probably like, I thought they said Jurassic World Dominion was the last Jurassic film. They did not. They did say that there would be more Jurassic films after that one. That was just the end of that trilogy with Owen and Claire and them. For now, they could possibly return at some point in a future film, like Dr. Alan Grant returned in Jurassic World Dominion. So, and of course, Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum were back as well for that movie. I love that I said Dr. Alan Grant instead of Sam Neill, and then I just named the actors for the other two. Oh, man. Me. Speaking of actors in the Jurassic franchise, Bryce Dallas Howard, who is currently doing the promotional tour for Argyle, which is releasing this week, and I will be watching and reviewing next week for you lovely people. She was asked during one of those promotional interviews about the news that the Jurassic franchise has a new movie in the works, and she said that she would like to return. That what they asked her if she would like to return. She did say she would like to return, but her ultimate hope would be that, quote, they continue with the story and the conceit that Michael Crichton created, and invite new cast members and storytellers to be a part of it, end quote. So she would like it to be a continuation of what has been created so far, which is new characters and new cast members and all that stuff, which is awesome. Completely agree with Bryce. And, again, maybe we'll see our classic, Jurassic people pop up at some point in time in those films or be mentioned, what have you. But cool. I love the Jurassic franchise. I know some movies can be hit and miss, especially a little more miss for a lot of people than it is for me. I just adore that franchise. Jurassic Park's my all-time favorite film. So, I'm excited. I'm glad that they're doing something else there with the dinos, and can't wait for more information and eventually the film to get here. All right, and finally in news, like update on the Buffy the Vampire Slayer show. There is a promising update apparently, and this news is coming from none other than Dolly Parton, of all people, saying, "quote They're still working on that. They're thinking about bringing it back and revamping it." Okay, so there you go. Promising start for Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV show fans. If you're wondering, like I was when I first saw this article about Dolly Parton being attached to it, and what she has to do with it at all. She is a producer of the show via her production company, Sand Dollar Productions, to which she co-founded. So the show is produced from her company. So that is her connection to Buffy, and they are apparently working to revive a Buffy the Vampire Slayer show. So I know a lot of people enjoyed that show. I have never seen a single episode of the show, but I've heard that it is enjoyable. So maybe one day I'll see it. The only Buffy thing I've seen is the movie, um, which I did have a lot of fun with and did like. So I don't know why I never got around to the show, and even now I haven't really had much interest in watching it. Even though I know a lot of people say it's enjoyable, it just doesn't pop up in my mind frame of something to watch when I'm trying to find something to watch. But it's awesome that it was successful. It ran from 1997 to 2003, which good run for them. So, and again, a lot of people love that show, which is fine, which is awesome. I will probably eventually get around to seeing it, but nonetheless, there is an update. They are still working on a revival for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So we'll see how it works. I know Sarah Michelle Gellar's show that she was doing just got canceled after one season, so she should be free to do the show. So we'll see how it all unfolds, man. But that's it for this episode. Appreciate you joining in and listening to the show. Hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, month, week, year. I said week after month because I am me. But as always, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me ramble on and talk about the thing I love, and that is films. So I appreciate you all. Please hit that like, subscribe, share if you want to. Make sure, again, you have those notifications turned on because there will be a secondary episode released for the Review It Rob show this week, talking about another film. So until then, like I said a moment ago, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, week, month, year. And as always, remember that happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light. Talk to you all next episode.